Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Nope, the much anticipated Jordan Peele film, which the other horror films he's done, because obviously he got his start in comedy, doing Key and Peele, as well as the very funny and a film I enjoyed, Keanu, which I think he was just involved with writing that. But my favorite of his horror films was Us, which I have a review for on my channel. And my second favorite was Get Out. And then Nope is my third favorite. Enjoyed the film still, but didn't love it. But this is where I'd be very interested to hear other people's takes on this film. Love it, hate it, in between. Always feel free to put it in the comments. And even though this is a no spoiler review because it's a new film, you can put spoilers in the comments. So just know that going forward. So like I said, written and directed by Jordan Peele. The cast for this one includes Daniel Kaluuya, who was also in Get Out, and he's a great actor. Like, he was amazing in Get Out, and I think he does a phenomenal job in this film. Even though he plays a very different character, it just shows that he's just a great actor. He can be different people. Keke Palmer also does an outstanding job in this one. She was in Akeelah and the Bee, and she actually does a ton of voice acting. So if you looked up what her voice acting is, you've probably seen something she's done voice acting for. Michael Wincott. Was excited to see Michael Wincott in this film. I know him best as the main villain in the film The Crow, which I love, love, love. I have a Crow poster in my basement down there. Always been a big fan of The Crow. He was also in, like, Along Came a Spider. Has a very distinct voice. A friend of mine had watched the film not knowing he was in it, and she said that as soon as she heard the voice, she was like, I know that voice. That's a very distinct voice. And it is. So it was great to see him in that, because I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. Also, Steven Yeun, who a lot of people may know from the film Mayhem, which I think might still be on Shudder. That's a really good film. Joe Lynch film. Steven Yeun's really good. And Oz Perkins has a really small role in this for some reason. I'm a fan of Oz Perkins. He wrote and directed The Black Coat's Daughter, which is one of my favorite A24 horror films. And then, everyone loves him, Keith David. Phenomenal actor. I'm just going to say this. I wish he was in the film more. This isn't really a spoiler because it literally happens like immediately in the film. He's the father of the family focused on in this film. And this kind of leads me into the synopsis. It's about a family who are involved with horse training because that's their livelihood. Like, they do horse training so for horses that can be used in film. So really they're supplying for Hollywood. And the father, the patriarch of the family, and the mother seems to not be in the picture anymore for whatever reason. I'm not sure they actually, if I missed what was going on there or not, but he ends up passing away very early in a very weird situation. I won't tell you what that is. And it's kind of up to the brother and sister who are left to piece things together. Well, they're on their ranch, which, beautiful place. That's one of the big things with this film. The locations are amazingly gorgeous. And Jordan Peele's directing, going along with the cinematography in this film, everything looks phenomenal. From an aesthetic standpoint, this is a wonderful film. It's just the material didn't quite get to the best level for me. But I still enjoyed it, like I said. But basically, they're trying to make it, and then some weird things end up happening there, and it's a horror film. But I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't want to give too much away about the film. So that's good enough for the synopsis. Everything before the title ends up happening is odd. But it makes you want to know kind of where this film is headed, and that's one of the big things is it's an odd film. There's a lot of odd things that happen, so kind of keep an open mind if you haven't seen it yet at this point. I like odd, and it was fine for me. Like, all the odd stuff played out well. It's just kind of where the film ended up going in the very end just seemed more just okay to me, as opposed to being a really good payoff. So I like all the odd along the way. I think it's handled quite well, especially by the actors. But yeah. Again, the scenery is gorgeous, and with how well it's shot, it just looks amazing. The performances are really good and help bring up the well-written dialogue, because you can tell that the dialogue is well-written. One of the big strengths, in my opinion, of Jordan Peele is not just concept, story concepts, which I think he did a phenomenal job with Us and Get Out. I think he did a good job with Nope, especially the metaphor at play, which I'll talk about at the very end, but I will give people a warning before I do that. But he's very strong at writing dialogue. Everything feels very natural, and obviously it's not just that, it's the acting that goes along with that. So I think the combination of the great actors and the really well written dialogue really help you feel like these characters are real and they're talking in a realistic manner, and you like them. Like, you really do feel endeared to these characters. So I love the characters in this film. I love the relationship in particular between Kaluuya and Palmer's characters, the brother and sister of the family. Their relationship feels very genuine. It feels very interesting. And the way they interact with each other is sometimes funny and sometimes just really endearing. And they definitely feel like brother and sister. And I just love whenever they're interacting in this film. They do a great job using subtle, low-key noises that sound kind of off in order to create tension. That's one of the things I really like. They also took opportunities to drop music out in the film, which I'm a huge fan of because it helps build tension. It makes things feel a little more creepy. It gives you more time to kind of like take in what's going on in the environment within the film, and also it increases perception of the sound design, which they did a really good job with the sound design in this as well. But when they have music, there's this one kind of like low-key off type sound they use, which just creates this little bit of like an unsettled feeling, which I think is really helpful with the film. And it's not like heavy-handed and bashing you over the head. Although there are moments, especially towards the end of the film, where the score does get very heavy-handed, and I really wish they would have pulled that back because it feels corny. It just feels like it's too much. It gets a little ridiculous in my opinion. The film is broken into segments signified by horse names, or names of specific horses. I'm not 100% sure why. I have a feeling maybe they tie to the two main characters, but figure it out for yourself on that one. There are some pretty good jump scares in this. I think that's another thing that Jordan Peele's pretty good at. He knows when jump scares can actually be effective and not when to put in jump scares that people will actually just not find good and roll their eyes at. Plus, he doesn't do it too much. When he does jump scares, he does a few jump scares. It's not a lot. So he does an effective job. And that's one of the things about jump scares, in my opinion, is if you do less of them, they have more impact when they happen. There are times when scenes in the dark are too dark. This is one of my big criticisms of the film. Properly light things, please. Whatever you're shooting, the directing, the cinematography, everything going on in the scene does not matter if the audience can't see what's happening. So it's not a lot of the film, but there are definitely those moments where you're like, I can't see anything. All I see is camera motion and maybe some like shadows, basically, like silhouettes of people and things, and like I can't engage in those parts of the film at all. I don't know if that's something that bothers other people, but it bothers me greatly, and I think Jordan Peele knows better. I think whoever was doing the lighting probably knows better, so I think it was an intentional choice, and I just don't understand that as an intentional choice. Because the rest of the film is pretty well lit. Actually, a lot of it happens in the light of day, which I enjoy because, it's a gorgeous location. You can see more. Nice use of stints of time with no music. It kind of helps put you on edge, like I was talking about before. There are some shots where you can't really make out what's going on, but I think it actually kind of works in favor of the film. I'm not going to go any further than that because it would give some stuff away about the film, but there are literally moments where you're watching and you're like, what am I seeing right here? What am I looking at? What am I experiencing? Not because it's dark, but because you don't know what you're looking at because it's a small segment of it and it just doesn't look like something you've seen before. Now, I think there's a particular reason for it to play out like that, and I think it plays to what the film is going for, so I like that aspect of it. I already talked about that. There's some interesting CGI that I think looks pretty good. Now, how they chose to go with what is CGI, I don't know if conceptually it was the greatest. It seems a little maybe too high concept in my opinion, but it looks good. It looks really good. So the CGI is very nice, very well done. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. I just felt like conceptually, I don't know what they were really going for. It's kind of like, it was a little much. And then, like I said before, the ending is just okay. I didn't love it. The ending is okay. This film is definitely too long. That's my big thing. It was like 2 hours and 10 minutes with credits. Way too long. Way too long. The pacing is bad in this film. I just don't understand this trend of feeling like people just want more time in the seat without more story. It didn't bother me. I will say this, though. It didn't bother me pacing-wise as much as a lot of other films of this length do. So it was interesting enough to keep me involved, but it's still a problem. The length of it that kind of kills the pacing a little bit. I think cut, 15, 20 minutes out of the film and it would move at a much better clip and be more engaging. But, I mean, it's still pretty engaging. So, here's my warning. I'm going to tell you what I think is kind of like the underlying metaphor at play in the film. And if you don't want that, you can just turn off right now. But I think that this film plays at the issue with humans trying to control everything and what happens when the unexpected and uncontrollable happens. So this is going to be a little bit cryptic for people, but people who have seen it will know what I'm talking about. The stuff having to do with Gordy, I believe that is set up in order to play to what's coming in the film. And in the sense of humans have a tendency to try and to want to control their environment, control everything within their environment, including other living things, which is very much focused on within this film in a few ways, like the horses as well. And it's kind of this look at what happens when everything doesn't go exactly to plan. What happens when things are not within the control of us human beings, because we always expect to be in control. And that just doesn't happen with, animals. That happens with, things like natural disasters. We always just have this sense of being okay because we can control, how we build buildings and where we build buildings and all that stuff, even though we still build in floodplains and things like that. But we feel like we can overcome nature. And this really comes down to a humanity versus nature type film. And what happens when things spiral out of control for humans, and it's not what they've expected and not what they've experienced in their past. I think there's also a component within this film about history, especially when it comes to African American history, and who sees it and who remembers it, and who takes note of it once it's brought up. And I think there's a scene in particular in the beginning of the film that's really played to with that. So that was an interesting component of the film too. So rating on this film out of 5 stars with half stars in play. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I was close to going 4 because it does look really good and the characters are good and the acting's really good. But the story's just, it's not there, and the pacing is bad. Well, not bad, but not very good. So yeah, I'm going to go 3.5. But know that I was really close to going 4, so I'm kind of like in between there. On any given day, it could be a 3.5 or a 4, basically. But I enjoyed it enough, I will say that. But I'd be very, very interested to hear what other people have to say about it. Like I said, put it in the comments. You can do spoilers. That's fine. Also, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And also hit the notification bell button, because that way you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. But thank you regardless for taking your time to watch this video. And until next time, keep it brutal.